A few years ago, I began noticing something about my daily habits that made me feel uneasy. From the moment I woke up until I went to bed, my life was dominated by screens. The first thing to greet me every morning was my phone, which also acted as my alarm. I'd lie in bed, scrolling through cooking videos on Instagram, bouncing from one app to another without a second thought. When it was finally time to get up and prepare breakfast, the screens followed me. Instead of focusing solely on the pan and my scrambled eggs, I had my iPad propped up right next to the stove. Then came work and I shifted to another screen, actually multiple screens, all interconnected. Meanwhile, the tiny beast on my wrist buzzed and beeped incessantly, tugging at my attention whenever I tried to focus on something important. Among all these devices, though, there was one undeniable culprit, a time thief worse than all the rest. It was my phone. I could easily spend hours every day lost in it. So, I decided to conduct an experiment. I would drastically cut back on my phone usage for an entire month. I set a strict limit for myself. No more than 30 minutes on my phone each day. This time restriction covered everything. Checking maps, calling my mom, listening to music or podcasts, and anything else I might want to do. With the limit in place, I began observing what happened during this month-long challenge. The first week was tough. Adjusting to a lower level of stimulation wasn't easy. But as I settled into the new routine, something fascinating started to happen. I noticed three major changes. First, my ability to concentrate improved. Staying focused wasn't effortless, but it became much easier compared to before. Second, my walks and moments of mind wandering became rich with ideas. My thoughts flowed more freely, leading to creative solutions and plans for the future. Finally, I realized I was spending more time reflecting on long-term goals and the bigger picture of my life. It amazed me that eliminating just one device could bring about such significant changes. Why did this happen? This realization sparked a long journey to explore what helps us focus in a world teeming with distractions. I dug deep into hundreds of research papers, poring over them in my office. Imagine a detective show where investigators unravel a murder mystery with a board covered in documents, notes, and threads linking clues together. That's exactly what my office looked like at the time. I flew around the world to meet experts in the field, conducting interviews and diving into studies on attention and focus. On top of that, I ran even more experiments on myself. By the end, I had accumulated 25,000 words of research notes exploring why we struggle to focus and how technology plays a role in this challenge. Technology's impact on our attention is a fascinating topic. To understand it, let's first talk about how we direct our attention, how we perceive the world around us, and how much control we have over our focus. Studies in this area reveal startling results. When working on a computer, especially with a phone nearby, we typically focus on one task for about 40 seconds before switching to something else. Add applications like Slack into the mix, and that number drops to just 35 seconds. But here's the surprising part. This constant switching isn't due to a naturally distractible brain, as we often assume. After delving deeper into the research, I found that our distractibility is only a symptom of a deeper, underlying issue, a root cause driving this pattern of fragmented attention. The problem isn't that we're distracted, it's that our brains are overstimulated. In fact, we are the ones craving distractions in the first place. The brain thrives on small pieces of information, social media, emails, and all the tiny tasks we perform daily. There's a mechanism in the brain called the novelty bias, which rewards us with dopamine, a pleasure-inducing chemical, much like the satisfaction of eating a freshly delivered pizza or the joy of being with someone we love. We get the same rush when we check Facebook. Dopamine floods our brains, so not only do we crave distractions, but but our brains also reward us for seeking them out. That's the state of the modern brain, overstimulated, constantly jumping between different sources of attention, each more enticing than the last. I started wondering if my phone could affect my focus this much. What would happen if I reduced stimulation even further? The sensation of shifting from a high stimulation state to a low one is something we all know. It's boredom. It's that restless feeling we get when we go from a hectic week to lounging on the sofa on a Sunday afternoon, thinking, what do I do now? I put up a question on my website for my readers. What's the most boring activity you can think of? I'll make myself bored for 1 hour every day for a month. And I tried out their suggestions, many of which still annoy me to this day. On the first day, I read the iTunes terms and conditions for an hour. Laughs. Surprisingly, it's shorter and easier to read than you'd expect. On the fourth day, I called Air Canada's baggage claims department and waited on hold. Here's a tip. If you want to make yourself truly bored, don't call ticketing, call baggage claims. You'll wait for hours. There's no guarantee anyone will answer. On the 19th day, I counted all the zeros in the first 10,000 digits of pi. By day 24, I was staring at the second hand of a clock ticking away for an hour. And there were 27 other similarly dull activities throughout that month. Thinking back on it, I still feel drained. But strangely, I noticed effects similar to those I experienced during my smartphone experiment. It took about a week for my brain to adjust to the lower levels of stimulation. This aligns almost perfectly with studies that show it takes about 8 days for the brain to truly unwind and relax, like when we're on vacation. Perhaps our vacations need to be longer. I also noticed my ability to focus began to expand. Focusing became easier, not just because there were fewer distractions, but because my brain, being less stimulated, wasn't actively searching for distractions in the first place. The most surprising part was the flood of ideas and plans that came to me, things I hadn't thought of before. This happened because my brain had more opportunities to wander. There's a wonderful quote by J.R.R. Tolkien that you might be familiar with. Not all those who wander are lost. It's entirely true when it comes to focus and attention. Think back to when your best ideas came to you. You'll probably realize that those moments rarely happened when you were intensely focused on something. Maybe this morning, while you were taking a shower, or on another morning in the past, your mind wandered and connected random thoughts floating around in your head to form an idea. An idea that, had you been focused on something else, like your phone, might never have surfaced. This state, especially when done intentionally, allows the mind to wander purposefully. I like to call it scatter focus. Studies reveal that this state helps the mind generate ideas and plans. By drifting into different parts of the subconscious, it's fascinating how, when you give your attention a break, your mind naturally gravitates toward 3 main areas: the past, the present, and the future. Interestingly, we think about the past less than we might expect, only about 12% of the time. When we do, it's often to recall ideas or revisit memories during moments when our minds wander. The present, however, tends to be more productive. Around 28% of our wandering thoughts focus on the present. For instance, imagine you're drafting an email but struggling to word a sensitive or politically charged idea. Then, as you walk to another room at home or in the office, the solution suddenly comes to you. Your mind, freed from immediate focus, finds a way to tackle the problem from a new angle. What's most remarkable is how much more time our minds spend thinking about the future. In fact, we think about the future more than the past and present combined, 48% of the time when our minds are wandering. That's why, while taking a shower, you might find yourself planning out your entire day, even before it begins. This phenomenon, known as the brain's perspective bias, naturally occurs when our minds wander. And if you're good at math, or maths, as the Brits would say, You might notice these percentages don't add up to 100%. That's because the remaining time reflects moments when our minds are blank, not tied to any specific thoughts or time frames. What matters is engaging in activities that allow your mind to wander, simple tasks that don't demand your full attention. For me, that's knitting. It might not be a typical hobby for someone of my age or gender, but I love it. I knit on airplanes, trains, and even in hotel rooms. Before this event, I was knitting in my hotel room. It calms me, reduces stress, and sparks countless ideas, which I jot down in a notebook I always keep nearby. For you, it might be something as simple as taking longer showers or upgrading to a bath. Not only does it relax your body, but it also gives your ideas room to grow. It could be walking from one room to another at the office. A small shift that, if done without checking your phone, lets your mind drift toward your upcoming meeting, the recent call, or other swirling ideas, enhancing your creativity. It might even be waiting in line and just waiting, or treating yourself to a massage. Whatever helps your mind wander, like this picture I absolutely adore. Laughs, take advantage of it. Here's a small tip. If you're getting a massage, ask if you can bring a notebook along. Ideas often flow when you're relaxed, and jotting them down ensures you can act on them later. After diving deep into this topic, I've realized we need to rethink two fundamental aspects of how we approach our attention. We often hear that we need to do more. The constant talk about grinding and hustling nonstop. But I've always been against that notion. Honestly, I'm one of the laziest people you'll ever meet. And ironically, that laziness has given me more ideas to talk and write about. We don't need to do more. In fact, we've already done plenty, probably too much. We've packed our schedules so tightly that our minds rarely get a chance to wander. And that's a real shame, because it's during those unstructured moments that our best ideas and plans tend to emerge. What we truly need is more space. Think of what keeps traffic moving smoothly on a busy highway. It's not the speed of the cars. It's the distance between them that allows traffic to flow forward. Our work and lives are no different. The second shift in thinking we need is about distractions. We often see them as the enemy of focus, but that's not entirely accurate. Distractions are just symptoms of a deeper problem, the overstimulation of our minds. Here's a challenge I'd like to offer you. Try this 2-week experiment to reduce the stimulation in your mind and simply observe what happens to your focus. How many ideas come to you? How does your ability to concentrate change? What kinds of plans do you find yourself making? For 2 weeks, work on reducing the stimulation your mind is exposed to. Our devices come with plenty of features that can actually help minimize wasted time. Use them not only to become more aware of how you're spending your time, but also to figure out ways to spend less of it on those devices. This will open up room for more ideas to emerge. Try adopting a disconnection ritual every evening. One of my favorite daily habits is going offline completely from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. my fiance. And I also have a weekly disconnection ritual, a tech-free Sunday. It's our way of stepping away from the digital world and reconnecting with the real, physical one. Rediscover boredom. You don't need to spend an hour on it. And please, whatever you do, don't call Air Canada. It's a nightmare. But take a few minutes to just sit on the couch and let your mind drift. Let your focus scatter. You'll be amazed by what you discover in that space. If there's one thing I've learned after deeply studying the way we focus, it's this: the state of our attention determines the state of our lives. When we're distracted in every moment, those moments accumulate into a life that feels chaotic, overwhelming, and directionless. But when we calm our minds and reduce stimulation, we not only unlock higher levels of productivity, focus, ideas, and creativity, we also end up living better, more fulfilling lives because of it. And that's the power of giving your mind the space it needs to thrive. It's not about adding more to your plate. It's about stepping back, simplifying, and letting creativity, focus, and clarity find you. If you've been searching for a way to feel more in control of your time and energy, why not start today? Whether it's disconnecting for an hour, trying a digital detox, or just letting your thoughts wander, small changes can lead to incredible results. If this message resonated with you, imagine how much more we can uncover together. Hit that subscribe button and join a community that's all about learning, growing, and taking action. Let's keep discovering the life-changing insights influencers like Chris Bailey share, and let's apply them to make our lives better, one step at a time. Your journey starts here. Don't miss it. See you next time.